In a political mudslinging contest, the African National Congress has threatened the Democratic Alliance with legal action if it does not remove a billboard in Tshwane depicting Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi under a shower head with the text, "The ANC showers in hotels. You have no water." The billboard is a play on Lesufi's admission that he showered at a hotel when the province faced water cuts. The ANC's lawyer argues the billboard's AI-generated image of the premier is unauthorized, demeaning and manipulated. The DA says Lesufi should use the same urgency he's expending in trying to conceal the billboard to resolve the water crisis in South Africa. Let's take a look at whether this is advertising brilliance or typical political squabbles bordering on questionable ethics. AI ethics in particular. Advertising and brand expert Lori's CEO, Pritesh Suraj, is joining me now on the line, and hopefully we'll be joined by Professor Metji Makgoba to weigh in, political analyst. I do believe we have you on the line. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Pritesh, let me start with you. When you first saw this billboard, what was your immediate reaction, and what do you think the DA was trying to achieve with it?
I mean, I obviously can't speak to the intentions of the DA, but I think as a consumer, if you look at it, and having looked at what's been the public zeitgeist recently, you see it as being some sort of social commentary in terms of what is in the consumer's mindset at this time.
Yeah, let's talk about AI-generated images and ethics, Pritesh. One of the key issues raised is the use of an AI-generated image that resembles the premier. In advertising ethics, how should companies or political parties approach AI-generated images of real people?
Yeah, it's a nascent territory right now as well in terms of utilizing such images itself. But I think one of the key things in the way it's being used is it being used in a satirical form, or is it being used to mislead the public in terms of trying to create a real image? And you know, if it's been used in a satirical form where somebody can look at this and say, yeah, that's a bit exaggerated, you tend to have a little bit more protection versus a case of where if it's actually used to try and sell something or sell an idea that the other person does not buy into. So satire, yes, protected. The other end of it, if you're trying to create an image that this person's endorsing you, that's a totally different angle to go down with AI images.
Now, Professor, let me bring you in here. What was your immediate reaction to this billboard?
I think the DA is basically trying to discredit the ANC, and basically because of what the premier has said, and because the billboard has some truth in it because of what the premier has said. So the billboard is basically a reconstruction of what the premier has said, but this brings like a contestation of the Electoral Act and the protection of freedom of speech. So, but when you look at the billboard, it's a bit exaggerated, and it goes beyond just satirical issues. It's actually implicating the ANC as an irresponsible political party, and the DA is trying to use this billboard actually to influence the outcome of the elections. But to an extent, it also shows the mess that the ANC is in, because if the premier is able to say that he can go to a hotel to take a shower, then somebody has to take actions against such, and the DA has assumed the opportunity to capitalize on that. But the way the billboard has been framed, it just goes beyond what the premier has said. Is actually implicating the whole ANC.
Now, in political communication, Professor, is provoking outrage sometimes a deliberate strategy to drive attention and discussion?
Most definitely. I think that's where the DA is taking this issue to, because they know that intertextually, this billboard is connected to what the premier said, and they're actually using that as a foundation. So they've actually recontextualized the premier's words and use them to create this billboard. And to an extent, it works for the DA, because if the premier in the first place was able to say such things in the public, why could not the DA say them?
Let's actually hear, perhaps maybe for those who have not seen the clip, what the premier said.
We are putting ourselves that we must ensure that this pain is not prolonged, because it's painful. I mean, and that's another thing, that people think that if there is no water, ourselves, our families, we've got special water. We don't. We also go through, in some instances, I had to go to a certain hotel so that I have to go to my commitments. we also go through the same inconveniences like any other person. There's no special water or a special pipe that is designed to service other people and not service other people.
So, Pritesh, let me come back to you here. If the DA argues that the image is not literally the premier, but an AI depiction, does that change the ethical or legal considerations?
It would to a certain degree as well, because essentially what the key test generally you tend to find is it actually being used, is the image being used to actually sell a product, to sell an idea itself? And in this case, it's not necessarily saying that the premier, it would be a different case if the billboard said the premier is endorsing the DA. Then absolutely the ANC would have a case in this. But in this case, in terms of commentary, being able to have that exaggeration, it kind of weakens the case to be able to have a legal standpoint in this. But again, because it's an AI-generated image, and this hasn't been tested to this degree within a South African legal environment, it would be really interesting to see what a court would say if it went that far.
Professor, from a strategic communication perspective, when a political leader becomes the subject of satire or criticism in a campaign advert, what are the most effective ways to respond without amplifying the message further?
I think the Premier has already responded. He has apologized for what he said, and that was supposed to be enough, but they are operating in a very contested terrain, so the DA saw the opportunity to capitalize on that. And I don't think actually taking the legal actions against the DA is going to help resolve the situation, because the issue of water in Joburg is a serious matter. What the ANC should be doing is to outline their current strategies on how they are going to resolve the water issue, because if they are just going to take the DA to court, this is going to just continue generating a negative media coverage for them. And in the end, it's going to damage the reputation they claim to be protecting by trying to threaten the DA with legal action.
All right, Pritesh, let me bring you in here. Now, do you think that had the DA used a normal, realistic image of the premier, that this campaign would have had more impact instead of an AI-generated one?
Yeah, I think it was a creative choice rather than necessarily a point of impact. They could have used the same image of the premier at the press conference itself, and I think it would have passed on the same kind of value and the same kind of message. So using an AI-generated image does not change the creative impact of the communication, because it is rooted on an actual event.
Now, Professor, what does this incident reveal about the current state of political campaigning in South Africa? Is this simply strategic political communication, or are we beginning to see signs of desperation from parties trying to win public support?
I think they're just trying to capitalize on the advent of AI and how effective it is in terms of just creating content. And I think this is just a reconstruction of old ways of discrediting political opponents. It's quite common in political campaigning. If you're going to contest elections or contest a political space, if your opponent makes a mistake, it is common that you have to actually make a decision to capitalize on that, or even try to embarrass them even further. And I think this is quite common in political communication.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for your time. That was advertising and brand expert Luri's CEO Pritesh Suraj and political analyst and communications lecturer Professor Metji Makgoba weighing in on that conversation.